classroom.
Leah.
Lively.
Unit.
Me.
The Warden.
Booty woman.
The Groaner.
Bumamasa.
Elevator. It works somehow. Progress is being made. Progress. So we just figured out how to get an elevator working. And we landed on the floor. And we're gonna see what we have here. Took a while to figure all that stuff out. Okay, now we're down here. We were up on that bridge before.
You must not disturb what lies beyond the veil.
You know I hate this war, but we can't keep hiding.
Survive today, fight tomorrow. Don't be silly.
Well, I've decided to join the masks. Sooner or later, the racials will discover our camps and blow us up. I'd rather die fighting than die hiding, so we must rebel.
Is anyone there?
Story being told through the walkie-talkies. Village 7. Electricity controlling the fire, so there's... Maybe this helps up above. Guess we can't do too much down here. So hopefully that powered some stuff. Looks like it has. Open up this classroom.
Leah.
Lively.
Unit.
Min.
The Warden.
Booty Wong.
The Groaner.
Bumamasa.
Help. Friend.
Ni.
Sunrise.
Altasan.
Wind.
Wushi.
Mountain.
Buddha.
The Harmonizer.
Nifilham.
The Conductor.
Dinataru.
Danger.
Bulaka.
The Colonizer.
Itraru.
Earth.
Axtierra.
The Ferryman.
Laruneno.
Hip Electrion.
Ku.
River.
Shanu.
Hello.
Hopa.
Together.
Nit.
The Badger.
Fluha.
Dark Sea.
Zaka.
Dusk.
Nemasan.
Take it. Why not?
Who knows how many of them survived?
Good morning, kids. Today I have a little bit of a history lesson for all of you. The first mothership to land on Hip Electrion was the Juboko. It was a scientific expedition led by the best and brightest that humanity had to offer. This moon had an A-class designation. It was perfectly fit for human life with some alterations. Hip Electrion was home to intelligent life sometime in the distant past. What they have left behind is subject to much debate. These formations baffle scientists. We have detected cuts from powerful lasers in the mountain ranges. Installations about 5 meters high made of metal and rock can be seen all across the moon's surface. They seem to be especially present on the Cyclopia, the central formation of mountains. These alien installations were given the name of mechanical arcana. The Juboko landed on what is now known as the Northern Plains. Later, during the exploration phase, strange objects were found, mostly blue stones wedged in a round container made of an iron-like material. We call them tally stones. Geologists called the iron-like material H. niobium and stated that it was able to harness the vibrations of the stone it held. Human beings were united. We walked hand in hand carrying the banner of peace. Through trial and error, we discovered how to activate the mechanical arcana and use it. The mechanical arcana provided us with the ability to extract drinking water from the mountains and to activate ovoid doors hidden in the rocks, which opened the way to previously unexplored territories. Thanks to these ancient pathways, settlers were able to build new colonies across the land. This would further the development of human life on Hip Electrion. With some hard work, a new civilization was born among the stars through innovation and discovery.
There was a lot of lore. Do another one.
In the 14 after colonization, a second mothership called Sambu reached Hip Electrion loaded with hundreds of civilians and a private militia, whose commander was called Anil Zar. This was because the terrestrial government feared a comeback of those who build the mechanical arcana. They introduced an artificially created breed of wolves to Hip Electrion to hold off a really dangerous creature called Boor. New orders from Earth were to search for high electric conduction materials. So over time, the loss of knowledge of the mechanical arcana affected the entire Hip Electrion. The population of the moon grew rapidly. The distance between colonies gave birth to different tribes, governments, and nations. Traces of the objects called tally stones were lost over time. Hip Electrion was abandoned by Earth as astronomers continued the discovery of other planets which they called Hycean, which means covered with oceans with hydrogen-rich atmospheres. Tsarations cut off communications with Earth and took expansionist action. Thus it was that the War of the Cults broke out in 240 after colonization 2 years ago.
War of the Cults, that's what this is based on. The book. More lore. Let's continue to hear more. Alright, classroom setting.
Hip Electrion was terraformed in 2189, Earth dating. For us, it was 12 after colonization. Our moon was formed from the aggregation of debris left in orbit after the collision between the moon Selkis and a Pluto-sized object known as 492 Agartha. Who can tell me the distance from Earth? That's right, Muna. We are 9 parsecs from Earth, and we are in orbit at an average distance of about 962,000 kilometers from our father planet, Onuris. Now, let's review some technical data. Surface area, 330 million kilometers squared. Revolution period, 800 days. Gravity, 8.42 meters per second squared. As you know, Hip Electrion has an irregular rotation, and the planet's gravity is significantly greater than its mass. This has prompted our scholars to hypothesize that there are ancient mechanisms still active in the depths of Hip Electrion's nucleus that influence the planet's behavior, as well as the duration of Hip Electronian days. Keep in mind that we're not the first people to live here. This moon was home for those who we call the ancient people. Now we live in Sector 16. Who can tell me how many inhabitants live in this section? Bravo, Enepe. We are about 9,800 Skywatchers. The main mountain ranges of the inhabited areas are the Cyclopia, the Crying Mountains, and the Mountains of Callisto. The main seas are the Sea of Erebus and the Nyx waters, whose waters stretch to form the Gulf of Lingam.
Okay. In the fourth lesson.
Now,
Enemies.
we will talk about the Cult of Tsar. Pay attention, because this one will be one of the main matters that the rapporteurs will ask you about. The city of Tsar is the biggest city in all of Hip Electrion. It is situated in the northern plains. The first prophet of the Cult of Tsar was Anil Tsar. He was the first militia commander to set foot on Hip Electrion. Anil Tsar wrote a book known as the Equilibrium Book, which would later become the cornerstone of the Cult of Tsar. Over time, the now weak legacy of the Earth Militia has evolved into a dogma that mixes war and the equilibrium of forces in accordance with the Equilibrium Book. The Cult of Tsar is a way of life, much like the Bushido for the terrestrial samurai, whom I told you about yesterday. In the city of Tsar, the organization is made up of militia priests who are authorized to educate young Tsaratians and teach them the arts of warfare as well as the dogmatic principles of the Cult of Tsar. Young people between the ages of 5 and 15 are raised in militia clergy educational centers. After that, they can choose to join the ranks of the militia priests or become soldiers. The role of general is passed down from father to son through direct descendants. The general is also the spiritual leader of the Tsaratians, known as the prophet, which is the highest social order within the clan. The prophet is the man who best manages order, discipline, and synchronism. The key concepts of the cult are as follows. 1. Inner and personal power comes from the order. Strength comes from discipline. Victory comes from the balance between order and discipline, which together lead to synchronism. 2. The soldier who acts according to the rules has more power than the soldier who breaks the rules. Tradition gives a man more energetic balance. Meanwhile, the dogma is divided into 7 rules. 1. At home, the soldier must obey the militia priest. 2. In enemy lands, the soldier must obey the superior military authority of the army. 3. The soldier must refer to Anil Tsar as the first prophet. 4. At home, the prophet must be referred to by the title of prophet. In enemy lands, the general must be referred to with the title of general followed by his name. 5. An army soldier is your best friend. A soldier from your own platoon is your brother. Your superior is your father. 6. The prayers of order, discipline, and synchronism can only be expressed in front of the commemorative monuments of the first prophet, which are spread across the territory. Such prayers can only be made alone. 7. Nobody can look at any soldier who is in the midst of prayer.
Okay. Very strict. Let's do one more. The last one. It's just a big button. Oh. That opens something. Maybe that just stops the thing. Let's see.
Now, we will talk...
Okay. That just ends the presentation. Alright, well that was the classroom section. Next time we're gonna see if we can actually get up that door.